you're portraying me as being anti-Jewish or and against the Jewish people. That is not the case. I am not against the Jewish people, but like Jesus Christ, I am against evil Jewish leaders who lead their people astray. And I have a moral obligation, just like my Savior, to not have respect to persons, as James warns us, but to reprove and rebuke with all long-suffering and doctrine, regardless of who is in error or who is in sin. Now, I have to say.
Allow me then just to interact because we've got to both have time to speak here. By all means, take offense then, because yes, I do find your views, many of them, to be quite anti-Semitic, and a working definition of anti-Semitism: hostility to or prejudice against Jews. Contrary to Jesus, you make false statements. He was the truth himself. He said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." Contrary to Jesus, you make false statements. Here's a statement. Let's pull up slide number 9 from your 2006 article, Judaism and Homosexuality, a Marriage Made in Hell. You say the ancient rabbis, sexual perverts, made careful permission for their deviant sexual indulgences. They repeatedly made the Talmud's text crystal clear: boys of 8 as martyrs can't throw guilt on the Jewish adult who's the active offender against them. I know the literature, sir. I've studied Talmud and rabbinic literature. I'm a Jewish believer in Jesus, so I'm at constant war with the Jewish community. I've been called public enemy number 1 because of our effective outreach to the Jewish community. I reject Talmudic authority, but your treatment of the Talmudic text and making the Talmudic rabbis into perverts and pedophiles is absolutely false. You downplay what you call the Jewish apologists who have other readings. I can tell you what those texts mean. I tell you what they mean in context. And when certain things it's saying is a child who has sex with an adult culpable for the death penalty, and saying no death penalty and things like that. But this is the type of stuff that creates all types of hostility and hatred towards Jewish people and has led to acts of violence against Jewish people through the ages. It's almost all the classic anti-Semitic tropes I find in your book is on Israel. It came out in '84 that I quoted extensively back in one of my 1992 books. I found this terribly troubling, and I'm all for rebuking corrupt Jewish leadership, sir. I am all for rebuking Jewish liberals that are hurting our society. I am with you. Let's do it without fear. But I wholeheartedly reject false statements about Israel, false statements about the Jewish people, misreading of Talmud and rabbinic literature that demonizes people. That's where we have our differences.
Okay, let me just say that I have many articles complete with photostatic copies of all of these passages from the Talmud. Jesus said the rabbis, the Pharisees, were full of all uncleanness, and pedophilia is an integral part.
Why does he never accuse them of sexual immorality? Never once. In Matthew 23, with the 7 woes against the Pharisees, why doesn't it? And can I just ask you candidly, can you read Hebrew and Aramaic?
No, I read Greek, not Hebrew or Aramaic.
Okay, can you understand the fact you can put up photos that put up the full commentary and the full explanation? All right, these passages are easily misunderstood. For example, when the Talmud says if a girl is violated by a man and she's not 3 years old, it's nothing. It doesn't mean that it's not a sin or a crime. It means that she should still be considered a virgin when she gets married, because you had days when virgins were married and days when women were married, say, who were previously married and weren't virgins. And the question is, what day does she get married on? So she's not penalized for that. And so, oh no, Talmud says you can have sex with 3 years. Of course not. Look, I'm not a Talmudic Jew. I reject Talmudic authority. I have a whole volume as to why I reject the Talmud. All right, 300 pages on that. But these are misconceptions. And to make the ancient rabbis sexual perverts, that is a statement Jesus would not make.
Michael, the evidence is overwhelming, and what you're basically telling me here is the standard Orthodox Jewish subterfuge to try to whitewash these people whom Christ called sepulchres full of dead men's bones. Now, what I want to do...
No. Sir, hold on. That's false. It is not. See, you have such evil in your heart towards Jewish people that when you see sound Jewish scholarship that all traditional Jews on the planet will explain and understand the same way, who are as appalled by sexual crimes and sexual sins as you are. People I know well. I mean, we interact constantly. You're claiming it's a subterfuge. I'm telling you, you can't even read the text, sir.
We haven't talked about the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. That's working hand in glove with the Equality Act to end free speech in America.
But you're not. But I'm telling you, your views themselves spread anti-Semitism. I've got quote after quote from you that historically inaccurate, that are dangerous, that are ugly. And you won't even, you said before coming on the air, my producer explicitly called to ask, can we go there? You're not letting me go there. You're making a libelous statement about ancient rabbis being sexual perverts, and it's an Orthodox subterfuge to covering up. I'm telling you, you're misunderstanding the text. You're misunderstanding the Talmudic text. And I'm not a defender of the Talmud because I'm not a Talmudic Jew. You can't throw out these massive charges against Jewish people and then say when Jesus spoke against the corrupt leaders, he was speaking against all Pharisees. There were thousands of Pharisees who were believers. Paul identifies himself as a Pharisee in the book of Acts. You make these broad brush statements and say they're not anti-Semitic. They're terribly damaging, sir, and they're ugly and they're wrong.
What I would say is, in light of all this raft of accusations against me, people just come to truthtellers.org. I've got article after article, thousands of footnotes for all of this out of the Talmud, out of the Zohar, the Kabbalah.
You don't understand. You don't even understand what you're quoting. I'm just being candid with you. I've got a PhD in Semitic languages. I've studied with rabbis for decades. I differ with them on point after point after point. Tell you what. Let me host my show. Sir, you are wrong. You are in error. You are spreading dangerous misinformation about Jewish people. I stand with you in rebuking corrupt leaders, Jewish leaders. I stand with you in speaking against Jewish beliefs when they are wrong. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Jewish people. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. You've crossed the line many times over and thoroughly disappointed me in terms of agreeing to come on the show and now pushing back on the very subject I told you, my producer told you, we'd bring up.